Welcome to the Midwest Blitz. It's college football comfort food for the Midwest soul. Now, here are your hosts, Coach Drew and Big Nick.
Welcome to another edition of the Midwest Blitz. It's Coach Drew and Big Nick. Yeah, yup.
Yeah, yup. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the program, which is our Big Ten and Notre Dame coverage, we're going to talk about the college football playoff rankings that came out yesterday. We're going to go over the top 12, which are, in theory, the teams that are in right now. I'm going to tell you who they play real quick. So number 1, Ohio State plays Rutgers. Indiana's got a bye week. Texas A&M plays Samford. Georgia plays UNC Charlotte. Texas Tech's on a bye. So is Ole Miss. Oregon plays USC. That's our Big Ten game of the week. Oklahoma plays Missouri. Notre Dame's got a challenging ACC matchup with Syracuse. Wink. Bama's got Eastern Illinois. BYU's got Cincinnati. And Utah has Kansas State. So BYU and Utah are at the 11 and 12 seed right now. They're likely not both going to get in as Big 12 teams. Probably the winner of the Big 12 Conference Championship will end up in the field. The cut line, air quotes for audio listeners only, is probably Alabama at 10, who dropped down after the loss to Alabama. So outside of that, we got an important game for Michigan against Maryland. They're still alive in the field. USC plays Oregon, as we kind of just pointed out. Miami plays Virginia Tech. They're at 13. They definitely still have a chance. Then our group of 5 team very well come from the American Conference. Tulane is ranked number 24, plays Temple. North Texas, who's not ranked right now, plays Rice. And Navy is on a bye week. And the JMU Dukes, who we've been telling you about for a few weeks here on the Midwest Blitz, are not ranked but play Washington State. That's their toughest remaining game. If they win that, I think they may control their own destiny for at least a coin flip chance to get in the college football playoff, Drew. We kind of talked about that earlier. Any thoughts?
Yeah, just want to point out that the JMU Dukes, we did cut it. We worked with them on the live on Tuesday and talked to them. And I just want to say that, we're rooting for them. We're rooting for that small dog. We don't want to have like 5 to 6 SEC teams, even though we do in the college football playoffs. Even though that wouldn't be bias, right?
Yeah, according to Paul Feinbaum's response to the new rankings that has 5 SEC teams in, he said that the committee displayed pro-Notre Dame bias because I'm not sure why there's 5 SEC teams. Notre Dame, some people are making the comparison between Notre Dame and Miami because they both have 2 losses, and obviously Miami won the head-to-head matchup, which was an impressive win earlier in the year. But, dude, Miami's lost to 2 unranked teams, and I think that was 2 out of 3 weeks leading up to the first ranking that they lost those games. And there is an admitted recency bias with the college football playoff rankings. So if you think that they're biased for Notre Dame right now, you're either a dumbass or you're Paul Feinbaum. Or you're both. So you're Paul Feinbaum. But there's a reason why Notre Dame is in and Miami's out right now. There's no ambiguity about that. What do you think, Coach Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably rate that like 9 out of 10. And if I could leave a comment, I would probably say that absolutely. ESPN may show some SEC bias, and we're not all about that. But doesn't that kind of sound like an app that's also we're looking at here called Rate Something?
Rate Game, the Rate Game app. I don't know if you guys have seen about the Rate Game app. And by the way, before we talk about the Rate Game app, I want to mention how impressed I was in our TikTok live. A lot of fans were clamoring for the JMU Dukes and were upset that they weren't ranked. So there are some high IQ football fans that listen to this podcast, no doubt. Yeah, the Rate Game app, which I've been talking to a lot of Michigan fans in the Rate Game app who were pretty bummed after the game against Northwestern last week. I won't get into that game too much. They were disappointed with the turnovers and the close contest against the Wildcats, but the Rate Game app is a really cool way to connect with other fans who are really passionate about all kinds of different sports. We specialize in college football here on the Midwest Blitz, but the Rate Game app, they have NBA, NFL, MLB, Major League Soccer, WNBA. There's all kinds of sports on there. And it's a really fun place to go in after a game and have a conversation about the game with other fans who really love that sport that you're passionate about. And Nick George, who is the founder of Rate Game, is a partner with us here on the Midwest Blitz. So we wanted to give a shout out to Nick and mention the Rate Game app. I've had a lot of fun on there the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the games that's probably going to be on there is the Oklahoma versus Missouri game. I kind of want to touch on that before we get to our big games in the Big Ten and all that, which we are the Midwest Blitz. That's our thing. We're here for you to give you coverage of things that you might not find on mainstream media. We're your media. How about that, Nick? This Oklahoma versus Missouri game is interesting enough. Mateer is coming back and did great things against Alabama on the road. Now he goes against Missouri. Missouri, just like a tiger, right? Missouri Tigers is a thorn in the SEC because sitting at 7-3, I believe if that's correct, stat quoting myself here. Yeah, they're 7-3. They are a deadly team, a sleeping giant, and they need to be taken serious. Now, as a Notre Dame fan, and I would say I am biased, right? Because Notre Dame bias is a thing, allegedly, Paul Philbon. So the thing I want to say is I hope Missouri can beat Oklahoma so then Oklahoma can be eliminated from the college football playoffs. So then we can move on from the discussion that Notre Dame just belongs in there, blah, blah, blah. But I want to give Nick a chance to talk about this because I know we've been rattling about it all weekend.
That would be a huge boon for Notre Dame for Oklahoma to lose this road game. I believe it's a road game against Missouri this weekend. The problem is that John Mateer, post-hand surgery now 4 or 5 weeks ago, he went to the dry cleaners and picked his cape up. He's starting to look like the Heisman Trophy candidate that we saw early in the year. And I mean, the term dual threat quarterback gets thrown around a lot, which sometimes just means the guy's a good runner but not a great passer. John Mateer is pretty damn good at both when he's healthy, and he's not just throwing the ball better. The ball's been coming off his hand better. The spiral is better. The release is better. It's more on time. It's more confident. But he's starting to lower the shoulder pads and pop dudes when they start to tackle him. A physical dude, almost kind of Vince Young adjacent. Shout out to I Miss Vince Young on Rate Game, also somebody who I've been interacting with who remembers the great Heisman Trophy winner from Texas. But I have trouble believing that Missouri is going to be able to beat Oklahoma with Mateer looking almost close to 100%, but will be a good SEC matchup for sure this week and very impactful for the CFP and for Notre Dame in particular, since they jumped Notre Dame after the last rankings came out.
Another game that we also want to look at that's close to the college football playoffs, and now we're going to travel to the ACC. The ACC, we're looking at something interesting. Pittsburgh is playing Georgia Tech, with Georgia Tech only opening -2.5. Now, they're presumed the favorite. Why we bring this up? Well, a lot of people asked us during our live and about Miami's chances and odds. Well, this is where it starts. You're hoping that Pittsburgh can beat Georgia Tech and start the domino effect where Miami then triumphs into or gallops, whatever you want to say, into the college football playoffs. I don't know, hurricane, ducks, fly, something.
I don't think a
Save me here,
hurricane,
Nick.
I'm not sure if a hurricane really trots or gallops. I think it just kicks the door in, Coach Drew. And Miami, my kicking the door in for the hurricane reference probably just fell apart because the Hurricanes need help right now. The problem for Miami, ranked at 13 right now, is that they have 2 conference losses while Georgia Tech and Virginia do not. Virginia is on a bye this week. Miami has a manageable game against against Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech plays Pitt. You said that's 2.5 point spread. Georgia Tech's favored by 2.5, Coach Drew, against Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Currently right now.
I expect Georgia Tech to win that game. Could be interesting, though. The Pittsburgh got worked over a little bit by Notre Dame, especially in the second half last week. But Pittsburgh's run defense, at least statistically on the year, has been really good until you have to defend Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and face up with that Irish offensive line, which is formidable per usual, but good run defense for Pitt and also an explosive passing attack for most of the season. So they could definitely present problems for the Yellow Jackets in that game, although they've got some magic with their quarterback and their head coach right now. Haynes King, one of the best Southern names in all of college football, and their coach, who's a badass. He's an alumni, former offensive lineman for the Jackets. I'm looking forward to that game. But even if they lose that game, that doesn't necessarily put Miami in the conference championship game. Miami needs multiple somebodies ahead of them to screw up, for lack of other other analogies I was going to use.
Don't worry, Nick. I got this. I used to be on a podcast called The Triple Option, also formerly known as Tool Bags Up. And I'll just tell you, I learned how to speak Floridian. It's part of the linguistics things I said. Here, I'm going to try to elaborate or try to give the Miami people, if we have any people from Florida, I'll give you, bear with me. I haven't worked on my Floridian in a while. Hurricane, category 2, going over land, question mark, need a lot of heat, possible 5, if gets to land, uh-oh. So that's where you're at right now. How did I do there? How's my Floridian? Does it sound good?
You know, you might have a future as a meteorologist, Coach Drew. We'll get you on your little green screen. We'll just get the weather going instead of the Midwest Blitz logo, and you'll be all set.
Well, hopefully they understand that since we are the Midwest Blitz, let me break that down in Midwestern for you. Yeah, no, so we have about pretty good football team. They may or may not get a couple scores. Yeah, yup. Help here, there, everywhere. If they do, great. And if they do, really good, you betcha, they're going to the college football playoffs. How about that one? Midwest Floridian? Now we're just talking different languages.
Yeah, I grew up in the heartland, central Indiana. So the Floridian thing, I love people from Florida. I love going to Florida. I love eating oranges. And I always thought Miami was badass from the good old days with Michael Irvin and the boys. But yeah, the Midwestern approach was a little more linguistically approachable for me, Coach Drew. I'm trying to use big words to sound smart right now. It doesn't work.
Did you see what I did there? I didn't complain about talking 1,000 miles away like other universities do. But that's enough about Hate Week. We'll get there sooner enough in Week 15.
Yeah, we'll take a little shot at the Trojans. The Trojans can always catch a stray at any time, the USC Trojans here on the Midwest Blitz. They're technically part of the Big Ten, but we don't really accept them. They're like the person that shows up to your Thanksgiving dinner who you had to allow in your home, but you don't really want them there.
Sounds like a stepbrother. Will Ferrell also... Will Ferrell was also in the movie Step Brothers, Nick. I think that's what you're referencing to.
Correct. Something about a drum set I won't bring up right now.
Yeah, that was Ohio State. They're like, did you put your Buckeyes on my drum set?
The Ohio State's been putting their Buckeyes on a lot of people's drum set this year. They're so good that it's been boring to cover them. Speaking of that, you want to go to Columbus, Ohio and talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes and their matchup against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Coach Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get there in just one moment. I just want to add one more note. God bless Eastern Illinois, as hopefully Tony Romo can help them navigate into the SEC going against Alabama. They definitely are going to get that NIL money. I just want to give them a shout out because they are from the Midwest Blitz, so we'll see what happens there.
Thank you, Eastern Illinois football, for the multiple human sacrifices that you have to make to fund swimming and girls basketball and all the other things that you're bringing that money home for. We salute you, Eastern Illinois.
Yep. Now let's go to the...
So the Rutgers Scarlet Knights plus 31.5 travel to the Ohio State University, number 1 in all the land. This is Fox Big Noon kickoff, noon Eastern Standard Time. Do the Buckeyes come in, Coach Drew, a little distracted with the game against the team up north next week, and with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, the most underrated player in the country, and CJ Donaldson at running back, all listed as questionable for this game? I think at least for Smith, this questionable is more like a potential LeBron James, we're just going to rest you for wear and tear. That's just my opinion. I want to point this out. Ethan Kaliak-Manis is the number 2 passer in the Big Ten with 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now, his best wide receiver is Ian Strong, who's almost a guarantee for 100 yards a game when he's healthy, at least. All right, the spread's 31.5 here. I'm not trying to bullshit you guys, Buckeyes fans. I'm not acting like Rutgers is going to beat you. But this Rutgers passing attack has been dangerous, and with the game against Michigan coming up next week, maybe Rutgers hangs around and makes this a little interesting at noon. Maybe you finish your breakfast and, watch this game and pretend like it's going to be close. It probably won't be at the end. I will say this, Antoine Raymond for Rutgers has been a baller all year. I mean, we've been doting over the Buckeyes. They're going to win this game, but I could see them coming out maybe and being a little disinterested is not the right word. And Ryan Day is the best coach or runs the best program in the country right now. But how do you get up for this game if you're Ohio State, Coach Drew? You've been drilling everybody, and I feel like you like to use the term sleeper agent. Ethan Kaliak-Manis has been a sleeper agent this year in the Big Ten. Nobody watches Rutgers besides me. Dude, he can sling it. I could see this being a little interesting for 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they want to do the whole wide receiver situation. The Ohio State has some of the best wide receivers, not only in the NFL, but currently in the college football as well. And when you have these great athletes, they are a little banged up. Now, why does that matter? Well, Vegas doesn't want you betting on the spread. So they put the spread so damn high that you're like, that can't be hit. But then you're like, well, it's Ohio State playing Rutgers. If you're really going to bet on this game, you got to figure, can Rutgers play against the backups at Ohio State and do well? Similar to last week when Ohio State was able to rotate. I understand it's a trap game and it's very tricky. I think they're going to come out and attack it like any other game. There has to be some maturity in there. I don't know why, but I don't think Ryan Day is going to let them, and this isn't a shot to you, this is a conversation we're having here.
Sure.
I think that Ryan Day has to realize he has to beat Michigan at some point to validate a national championship. I mean, one of the only programs that would say, we won a national championship, but
It has an asterisk
we didn't
next
beat
to it.
Michigan.
Yeah.
That should be Dr. Pepper, call me. That's your next commercial. Validating national championships, losing to your rivals. Doesn't matter.
The new Fansville Dr. Pepper commercials are so elite, so top level. I forget that they're not part of the actual football programming because the parody of some of the stuff they do on there is great. Yeah, so in my little theory where we try to make this game interesting, I have to point out that Rutgers' defense has been absolutely abysmal almost every time I've watched them this year, including against Purdue, who's obviously struggled. But if they sit Tate, Smith, Donaldson, I guess at running back, you still got the other Bo Jackson and other talented athletes there. I don't know. Something to think about. Or just
what's the over under on the people's hurdles? I think Vegas probably has it at 1.5.
Yeah, it is
that
1.5,
might be a little high.
Coach Drew. It is 1.5. That's correct. He's
Just
good
a
for
dog.
1. I don't know about 2. Yeah, that hurdle he
Well-
had against UCLA last week, it was absolutely filthy. You want to go to Wrigley Field, Coach Drew? I know you're a Sox fan, but we got to go to Wrigley at some point here.
Yeah. Are they at Wrigley or are they back on the JV soccer field?
They're at Wrigley. So the Minnesota Golden Gophers head to Wrigley Field to take on the homeless Northwestern Wildcats at noon Eastern Standard Time on the Big Ten Network. So PJ Fleck and the Gophers stand between the Wildcats and bowl eligibility way earlier than people expected. The expectation was never. Their Vegas over-under before the season, I believe, was 3.5 games. And even Coach Drew and I struggle to figure out where they would win 4 or 5 games. If they could get their 6th win in the 11th game here, that would be huge for the Northwestern Wildcats under Coach Braun, who we've been singing the praises of for several weeks now. He's done a great job with this football team. They don't have offensive firepower, but their defense is about as hard-nosed as you can get. If you don't believe us, ask the Michigan fans on Rate Game and on Reddit and on Twitter and probably at a local pub somewhere, anywhere in the state of Michigan. Northwestern's defense is tough. So on the other side of the coin, Northwestern exceeding expectations. Fleck and the Gophers, I feel like, have struggled. They lost that early season game against Cal. They got absolutely humiliated against the Iowa Hawkeyes a few weeks ago. They come in an underdog it's a road game at Northwestern. I suppose Northwestern does have home field advantage, even though they don't have a stadium yet. Can Fleck and the Gophers rebound from their recent struggles? I know they have talent on defense. They allegedly had talent on the offensive line and at running back. Darius Taylor, I believe, is a go, and I'm not throwing shade at Darius Taylor if any Minnesota people watch this. I may be throwing shade at your offensive play calling / offensive line coach / offensive line play, but I don't think Minnesota's going to run the ball that well against Northwestern, even with a healthy potential future NFL running back, because they haven't run the ball consistently all year, Coach Drew. And here's what Northwestern has right now that is as important as anything in all of sports: the big momentum, Coach Drew. Northwestern has momentum, and they've developed belief within their football program that they can figure out a way to win games even without a consistent passing attack. And that's not just a shot at Preston Stone, the quarterback, but we've got to give a shout out to Griffin Wilde. I've not only finally figured out how to pronounce your name correctly and figured out that you're not a 5'8" walk-on, as I embarrassingly said earlier in the year. Griffin Wilde, the wide receiver for Northwestern, he's the go-get-it guy. And when they don't have Jack going in the passing game, you just throw it to Griffin Wilde, and he's going to go get it no matter who you're playing. I think that guy's got an NFL future, even if he's an undrafted free agent. Griffin Wilde is a stud at wide receiver for Northwestern. I trust Northwestern at home. I'm not sure I trust Minnesota fans to travel down there in any way, shape, or form. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I think I got Northwestern money line here. You could lay the 3.5 if you want. I'm being soft today, maybe. I think Northwestern pulls this out and becomes bowl eligible. I think that's a real feel-good story, and I'm just not sure that the Gophers have a lot of juice going right now, Coach Drew. Even though I was a Gopher fan early in the year, what say you?
Well, first off, I didn't even know they're still at Wrigley. That's a shocker. I live down the street, basically less than 30 minutes away from Chicago, so that was interesting. That was a fun fact. One of the things I'm interested in is not only watching the game, but how many people show up, because now I'm like, how do I live under a rock? If many of you don't know this, but I live, eat, drink sports, talk sports all the time. And me not knowing that's kind of crazy. And I'm a huge baseball fan.
If I'm wrong, you blame ESPN. But
No,
that's
it's
what
all right.
ESPN had on the schedule.
Yeah, that's what ESPN's saying. But
I've been
yeah,
wrong.
No,
and all of you fans out there, thank you for letting me know every time I'm wrong. It's really enjoyable for me. It's not really enjoyable, but we appreciate you guys correcting us when we get basic facts wrong. But that's what they had on ESPN as far as the schedule. It was at Wrigley.
Nick forgets he's 6'4" and he stands really tall in a room, and he's like, why are people looking at me and noticing everything I do? He forgets he's a short kid at heart. All right, so back to...
I'm a fat kid at heart, is what I am.
So Northwestern does have Mo, and like you said, I'll ride with it. Momentum. And so we're looking at this with Stone. Stone's been playing well. PJ Fleck, he's in a Rose Boats. He can actually rose boats in Great Lake, Michigan. I'm sure that's the proper... Wouldn't that be funny if they showed up on boats and they just stormed Lake Michigan?
That would be sick. It's so cold up there right now that you can't really do a boat party like you do like at San Francisco Giants baseball stadium, or don't they do that at... Isn't there a college football stadium where they do that? I'm screwing this segment up. Just forget that I started talking.
All right. Well, we don't have to forget. We can always forgive. And that's what we're going to try to do with this game, as both teams are comparatively the same. Both offenses aren't great. Defenses are what carries this game. If anything, I'm going to carry and hit the under. I'm going with the under here in this game, folks.
What was the over-under there, Coach Drew?
The over-under for this game is... Sorry, give me 1 second. I have something on my eye. Give me 1 second. My eye.
Is it
All
White
right.
Sox bias that you have in your eye?
Yeah,
Is
it
that why
is.
you didn't know they were playing at Wrigley? Go ahead.
50.5.
Oh, I love an under there. I love that under.
Sorry, that was the eye. 40.5. I still like it.
Whoa. That's way
19
different.
point spread. That was actually, spoiler, that was the big game that's coming up we're talking about later, which means it's going to be a shootout, which kind of makes sense, but I said I had something in my eye. Sorry, folks at home. Sometimes that happens. We're only human.
You said 59.5. I was like, can I sell some stocks, bonds, gold, silver, guns, ammo, anything to get money to bet this under 59.5? And then you're like, sorry, it's 40.5. And I'm like, all right, calm down. I was going to sell the house and bet it on the under and buy a bigger house.
You're talking crazy like corn stalks in Iowa.
Sorry, the degenerate gambler kind of pops out there once in a while, Coach Street. You want to go to Iowa? That sounds like a great idea. Michigan State Spartans travel to Iowa City to face the Iowa Hawkeyes. Plus 16.5, 3:30 Eastern start on Fox Sports 1. The Hawkeyes look to work out some pent-up frustrations here after some tough losses against highly ranked teams as of recently. USC to B1 versus Sparty, who is on a, did I read that right? Michigan State is on a 7-game skid here. Holy smokes. We had high hopes for both the Hawkeyes and the Spartans. Michigan State has been in a free fall for a while. I think they had their Custer's last stand against Indiana where they looked competitive in the first half with a good game plan, and since then it's pretty much their card table's been flipped over. This can be a big game for Kamari Moulton and the Iowa running backs. It's going to be a big game for Jennings Dunker, Logan Jones, and the monstrous Iowa offensive line. It's going to be a big game for Max Llewellyn, Herkett, and Aaron Graves on the defensive front for the Hawks. This is going to be an absolute beatdown. I got Iowa minus 16.5. This is also going to be a bad day for Coach Jonathan Smith from Michigan State, who we are not encouraging or entertaining the conversations out there that he may be fired or that he's on the hot seat. We're not promoting that necessarily, but I mean, he's already benched Aiden Childs. Now the other kid that they put in for him is apparently dinged up also. So I don't know who you call the number one and the number two now that they benched the number one and the number two's hurt, but your first two quarterbacks are dinged up. You might have a third string quarterback in this game. And if you do, holy ass whooping, Drew. It's going to get ugly for Sparty in Iowa City.
Nick doesn't believe in doing math when it comes to football. He likes watching and telling you everything great.
That's right.
But I will tell you this. There is an equation that I'm looking at and the box scores in comparison to, not to sound like a nerd, but if Michigan State can give up less than 20 points, they will possibly win this game. The differential is they, on average, have been giving up about 28 to 31 points, and they're only scoring about 13 to 20. I mean, it's just not, that offense can't get going. They don't know what they're doing. Aiden Childs is banged up. The rhythm's going to be off. I mean, Nick Marsh is a dog, but
he is.
Who's throwing to him? Somebody has to throw it to him for him to have an opportunity.
Did you say if Michigan State holds Iowa under 20 points, they'll win according to your math equation? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's if. So ifs, ands, or buts are kind of like, hypotheticals.
I'm doing some math of my own over here, Coach Drew, about that. So for Michigan State to hold Iowa under 20, carry the 2, add the 3, divided by pi, they're going to do what? Bring some Michigan State alumni who are in the NFL to play on their defense this week? Or are they going to, I was going to say kidnap Kirk Ferentz before the game, but Iowa might actually score more points if they did that. I'm just trying to figure out the math of how in the hell that would ever happen, because Michigan State is going to be hosed with Iowa and their badass front seven guys, key in the run, and daring a quarterback to beat them who doesn't have a lot of game experience. I'm just not sure about that. And this is why I hate math, ladies and gentlemen. I don't use, a lot of sabermetrics and all these types of things. I do sometimes. We're having fun with this, but Drew is the resident mathlete here on the Midwest Blitz. And so he likes to tease me about my lack of mathleticism. I got the Hawkeyes covering 16.5. I just don't think Michigan State's going to score enough. I just don't.
Well, if you pay attention to the math sentence, as I said before, if, right, which entails if and then, so that has to happen first. It's not happening. The if never happens. So this math problem never lasts. That's a real math answer.
I was told there would
how I did there?
Be no math, Coach Drew. I do like what you did there. You wanna go into the mountains and talk about our Big Ten game of the week?
The former Pac-12 matchup. Is that a thing? Can we talk about that legally?
Ron Burgundy? Question mark? Yeah. So the number 15 USC Trojans plus 9.5 travel to Eugene, Oregon to face the number 7 Ducks at 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. This is two old school Pac-12 rivals who are going to meet in the backyard and have a fist fight for a spot in the college football playoffs. The Ducks are going to win, and we're about to tell you why. This is my non-athletic, non-sabermetric, non-advanced analytics answer to why the Ducks are going to win this game. Regardless of offensive injuries, the Ducks have been dinged up and have squeaked out close games without wide receiver Sherone Moore, without offensive lineman Alex Harkey, and even with limited use of badass tight end Kenyon the Freak Sadiq. This is why Oregon's going to win the game. The Trojans' defense and the Trojans in general have been touted by a lot of people that don't actually follow football closely, but they just look at a box score here or there and they see success and they latch onto it and they apply traits like, this team's very physical. Do you know why they say that, Coach Drew? Because the rap on USC has been that they're not physical enough. So then some people that want to apologize for them come up with takes like, look, they ran the ball well against Georgia Southern. They're so physical. The Trojans got absolutely rocked against Illinois. You know who called that? Me and Drew did here on the Midwest Blitz. I told you that Illinois was going to run it right down the pike on USC. And for those of you half-assed box score watchers, Illinois should have been up 2 touchdowns in that game. I'll fight for the Illini till I die here on this show. They should have been up 2 touchdowns there. They end up winning on a last-second field goal. Illinois ran the ball right up their ass, and Notre Dame did the same thing, which you also heard first here on the Midwest Blitz. Now, I will defend the Trojans' defense slightly here, not that it's going to save me any grace with Trojan fans. They were respectable against the run against Iowa, especially in the second half. And Iowa's another team that runs the hell out of the ball. But what's the difference between Iowa? So, Drew, we're going to play the game. One of these is not like the others. We got Iowa, then we have Illinois, Notre Dame, and Oregon. What is different about Iowa? Even though we love Iowa, Iowa does not pose a legitimate threat to pass the ball against the athletes that this USC defense has to offer. These other teams do, and that includes with Moore at quarterback for Oregon, who has had some bumps in the road this year, that has Heisman-level talent and has pro-level game management skills. This USC defense is going to get beat at the line of scrimmage. It will get worse the longer the game goes on. And I think that's more or less the same on the other side of the football. I think the Oregon front seven is better and tougher than the USC offensive line. And I'll say this, USC has done a good job this year with their counterplay where they pull 2 guys from the backside. And sometimes that's incorporated with an RPO, which is a complicated thing. You don't have to understand it all. Just let me finish and then it'll make sense to you. I think that the Oregon front seven, led by Bryce Betcher at linebacker, potential future Houston Astro, got drafted in the MLB draft. With him captaining the defense and with Bear Alexander, a large man with an axe to grind, a former USC Trojan who transferred to Oregon, I think that this Oregon front seven is primed to stop the premier running play in the Trojans offense, which is that counter play. I don't think that Oregon is going to be surprised at all by that counter play. I've coached against that play in the past. I understand what it is. I understand why it works. It's a good play, but that's the bread and butter of their offense. I expect Oregon to absolutely stonewall that play, and they're going to put Jaden Maiava, who I've sung the praises of all season. He is an absolute badass. This guy's a future NFL starting quarterback. He'll even lower the shoulder, run the ball. He'll even track someone down an interception and make a tackle. I respect Jay Maiava to the max as far as quarterbacks and toughness go. But Maiava, Lemon, and Lane at wide receiver are going to have a lot of difficult down and distance situations as they lose the line of scrimmage battle in this game. The other thing, Coach Drew, is that USC has struggled at Oregon historically, at least over the last 15 years. I don't see this game going the Trojans' way. In fact, this reminds me of when the Trojans had to go to Notre Dame. That's kind of what I see here. Your thoughts?
Well, as we look into your crystal ball reading or tea leaf reading, as I'm showing my hands as some tea leaf readings, that doesn't bode well if USC is having some flashbacks of when they traveled to Notre Dame if they're going to Oregon. Now they're both green teams. They both wear the color green, so hopefully they don't have it. I don't think they play any navy blue. I don't know. Oregon has a lot of different uniforms, but that's enough about random facts about Oregon. One fact I will say, though, about Oregon, though, that isn't random, is Dan Lanning is a dog. Very adequate head coach. This is November football in the Midwest. He is ready to pounce. Oregon, if they didn't lose to Indiana, they would be in the driver's seat to be playing in the Big Ten championship.
Can you imagine? I mean, they would be number one in the country. In fact, I think Oregon's probably been hosed. Look, the CFP has a tough job, so I'm not trying to be a Paul Feinbaum or Stephen A. Smith and just talk shit just to talk shit. But I think Oregon's probably gotten a short end of the stick more than anybody. They've got one loss to the number 2 team in the country in a game that was competitive. And I am a Hoosier fan, by the way, if you guys don't realize that. But the thing I keep hearing about Oregon is, well, they lost by double digits at home to Indiana. Well, they lost by 10. They didn't lose by 28. Like they keep saying double digits. Well, yeah, 10 is the lowest of double-digit denominations. See, Coach Drew, I just did that math. And they act like Oregon got their ass beat at home by Indiana when they didn't. I mean, it was a close game. Indiana did control the second half, but Oregon at 7 legitimately is the most underrated team in the country, and they're going to show you why on Saturday when they handle the Trojans.
Don't forget, I got to give you a gold star after the show. And the people in the comments, make sure, if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so I can be reminded to give Nick his little gold stars for doing math. See? Look at that.
So you guys can make fun of me. 15 weeks in, and I did math.
Look at him.
Coach Drew.
Who said old dogs can't learn new tricks?
He's not just old. He's stupid and dumb at math. At least I know football.
He's only 6'4". He's only 6'4". He doesn't stand out in a crowd.
Look, America.
No, not him.
Look, America, you can't be good at everything. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses. And we know those here on the Midwest Blitz.
And that's exactly why we tell you Oregon's going to pound the ball against USC. I mean, they have some really good running backs in Oregon as we previewed them early in the season. And they have NFL-ready quality players. I can name a handful of NFL adequate players. You know, Justin Herbert, quarterback. You know, Mariota, that's another quarterback. I know I went 2 for 2 for quarterbacks there, but you guys get it. They have the firepower. Mayava's going to be throwing a lot. That's what you're going to see. It's going to be a high-scoring game. That's why they have 59.5. That was a 59.5 earlier. I wouldn't really want to play with that. I do think Oregon pulls this off. Maybe they win by double digits. That the lowest, what did you say? The lowest double digits is 10, so I can win that bet.
Yeah.
So they're going to get double digits, which actually is the spread 9.5. So if you like that, you bet the spread for Oregon. Take it. Why not?
Fingers and toes, Drew.
Fingers and toes.
Yeah. The other thing that Oregon has going for them in the running game is they've got 3 running backs that all contribute and a quarterback who's more than capable and willing to lower the shoulder and run between the tackles with a lead blocker, which is partly why I love Dante Moore so much. He's not just a good passer of the football. He'll mix it up. Just like I said about Mayava a minute ago, I respect both these quarterbacks a lot. And me and Coach Drew sometimes pick on the quarterbacks and, give them a hard time. Both of these guys are quarterbacks I love to watch. What's going on at College Park, Coach Drew? We got number 18 Michigan going to College Park, Maryland to take on the Terrapins at 4 p.m. Eastern on Big Ten Network. Bill Bryce Underwood and the boys, Bryce Underwood, Sherone Moore, and the Wolverines, give Maize and Blue fans cause for optimism heading into the game against Ohio State next week in this matchup with the Terrapins. I think they will, and here's why. So Maryland, who I was optimistic about early, they've been trending in the wrong direction for several weeks. And they're another team, I think you said earlier this year, Drew, that Indiana is actually the Grim Reaper of the Big Ten. It's like everything's going well for you, then you play Indiana, and then it just walks the plank, kind of. Maryland came out against Indiana and looked really tough in the first half, had a really aggressive defensive game plan, really stalled Indiana's offense. And since then, they've looked like dog you not know what, and they have not made chicken salad out of chicken anything. They've looked pretty fucking bad, honestly. Michigan, probably after the struggles against Northwestern last week, I would assume had a good week of practice and was really focused and really ready to get things going. We all know that Michigan and Ohio State are looking forward to that last game of the year. But that doesn't mean with a good coaching staff that you don't come in disciplined, because who wants to show up and play like, have a crummy performance 2 weeks in a row headed into your biggest game of the year that you think about all year long? So I would assume that the boys are ready to go to war this week as far as the Wolverines are concerned. They had a good week of practice. They're going to come in focused. And here's the ultimate factor in this game is that if you compare and contrast all of the advanced analytics statistics regarding rushing offensively and defensively against between Maryland and the Wolverines, they're about as opposite can get. Michigan truly still is. Sherone Moore has carried on the Jim Harbaugh controlled line of scrimmage method of winning football games, which I really enjoy. We might like to see a little more out of the passing game, but we'll leave that for a later conversation. Maryland, as of late, has struggled to stop the run, when earlier in the year they were stopping the run very effectively, in fact, at a top 10 rate in the country, but that has not been happening for the last few weeks. And if you look on the other side of the ball, Michigan is more efficient running it, more efficient on the defensive side of the ball, stopping it. And that just puts freshman quarterback Malik Washington, who we've been very high on here on the Midwest Blitz, it just puts him in a lot of tough situations down and distance-wise. I think that Michigan comes out, handles their business pretty well in College Park, Maryland this week. Coach Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at the lineup card of what could happen in this game, and I'm trying to think, well, Bryce Underwood, they haven't been throwing the ball well throughout the season. They want to go against this Maryland team and throw it. Well, Maryland has multiple turnovers and is 12th best with 8+ turnovers or something like that. So the thing is, they just need to be careful. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do what Michigan does best, right? And hopefully they build more confidence for Bryce Underwood. But it goes to the run game. They have to get ready because the game is coming up. If we're comparison's the thief of joy, I will say Ohio State's in a way better position playing Rutgers at home, where they know that they rest players, they're beating players, they're the number one team, they won the national championship, while Michigan's still a 2-loss team playing Maryland, which this what I would consider a trap. Like, if I'm betting on this game, I would probably take the under first half and maybe... Yeah, I'd probably take the under in the first half.
I like under first half in this also.
I think it's going to be a slow start. I think Michigan wins, but do they win by 13.5? That's 2 scores, but it's really hard to even per se. I would say watch the first quarter, do a live bet. I want to do it straight out. I've done this too before with other bets. This is something you guys could do. If you're not sure like I am and how this game's going to go just because of tempo, watch the first couple of drives and then you'll know what the defenses are doing, and that's usually a tall tale sign to bet because the lines won't move. They'll still say Michigan by 13.5, and then that's when you pound it because it might go down because they think it's not going to be a big spread or it's going to work for you in the other way, opposite direction.
Pretty smart, Coach Drew. Why didn't I think of that?
Well, I don't know. I don't have a good answer.
So Nebraska travels to Penn State, Happy Valley, to play the Nittany Lions at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC. So the Huskers head to Happy Valley with an intention of closing the door on a potential first winning streak of the season in the Big Ten Conference slate for the Lions. This would be their first win streak of the year, like I said, inside of Big Ten play, and Nebraska, led by Emmett Johnson now, running back with Dylan Raiola out for the season, leads the charge. So I think that Nebraska might be able to get this done if they can handle the crowd noise. The Penn State fans showed up big time against Indiana a couple weeks ago, and I don't think we can understate, as like Drew makes references sometimes to the college football video game, the stadium pulse is a real thing. And if you've ever been in one of these giant stadiums during a game, you can feel your teeth rattle sometimes. And I think Penn State's one of those places where that can happen. But every analytics tool that I've looked at, from Pro Football Focus to Game Matchup to Game on Paper to all these different things, says that this is the worst line, at least in the Big Ten this week, maybe in the country, at 9.5. I think the 9.5 is a lot of it is based on Raiola being out of the game. And if people didn't pay attention when Nebraska went to UCLA, Latif, the backup quarterback, played well. And with them leaning on Emmett Johnson in the running game, which I've been calling on for a while, if you've been watching the Midwest Blitz, this Nebraska offense is kind of a new look offense. They've installed new passing concepts for the freshman quarterback, and then they're just riding the workhorse Emmett Johnson, who I need an Emmett Johnson jersey, Coach Drew. I've been a big fan of this kid all year. He's going to be a hell of an NFL running back. I really believe that. But so, like I said, I got Nebraska plus 9.5 in this game. There is no predictor from the Jeff Sagarin rating to Pro Football Focus to Game on Paper that has this spread as being a good point spread. Everybody has the Nittany Lions overvalued in this one. What do you got, Coach Drew?
Yeah, anytime you go to Happy Valley. It's crazy. The whiteouts, the Mobamba. I mean, it's just intense. I mean, James Franklin, now we know that he's settled into Virginia Tech. I think the university can move on. Drew Aller, he's going to go to the NFL. I don't know where he's going to fall. That's a sneak peek. We're going to cover that later on in the NFL draft come April when we're covering the Big Ten team players. But yeah, the Nebraska team has to find a way to bounce back. You know, I was watching some Star Wars. So we got to do a Star Wars reference. If we don't do it in the Midwest Blitz, are we actually talking ball? But I was watching an old clip of the cartoon from Cartoon Network with Star Wars, and they show the clones going out there and fighting. And I was thinking, I'm like, that's Nebraska football right there. That's Nebraska football heading to Happy Valley because it's going to be a dogfight. Emmett Johnson, he's a great guy. I think he's going to run the ball very well against Penn State. And if he does do that, that's going against basically NFL players. So this is going to be a showcase game. A lot of players are going to get good looks. There's probably going to be some NFL scouts there. So we'll see what happens.
I feel like, okay, I'm glad you brought up Emmett Johnson again because, all right, especially for Nebraska fans and even Penn State fans that might be watching this, if they ask Emmett Johnson to run the ball 30-plus times, he's going to go out there like a warrior and do it. There's no check me out of the game. Oh, I'm tired. It's like watching old 80s Big Ten football where you had, Anthony Thompson running between the tackles 30 sometimes for the Hoosiers, and every run was with equal effort, explosiveness, and contact expected. And that's what Emmett Johnson does, and that's why I love him so much. He really is a throwback that goes out there and lowers the pads every time. I mean, Indiana's running backs right now run hard, but they rotate more than what Johnson's been doing lately. But 25, 30 carries, Emmett Johnson's there for you. And like you said, Drew, it's a good chance to get NFL tape for him. I want to say this about team momentum, and maybe I have more of a question mark for Penn State than I do for Nebraska, but I feel like the teamwork and camaraderie for Nebraska has been evident since the Raiola injury. Obviously, they struggled in that home loss to USC a few weeks ago, which was unfortunate for Nebraska, as we've talked about, right after the Matt Rule extension. But I think the fact that Matt Rule did sign the extension and that since the starting quarterback got hurt, the freshman has stepped his game up, improved. They put packages in for him. I have a good vibe about Nebraska, if that's a valid football point to make, but their teamwork and everything is just on point. And I feel like part of what led to Penn State's current predicament with Franklin leaving and all that was a lack of teamwork and camaraderie. I think there was a little bit too much me going on in the Nittany Lions locker room. So we'll see how they do at home this week. But that's kind of why I don't kind of love Nebraska plus 9.5. I really love Nebraska plus 9.5. I'm just not sure if I trust the Nittany Lions, but what I do trust is that the Nittany Lions fans are going to show up and be really supportive of the team this week, and that's something we'd like to see here on the Midwest Blitz.
Yeah, and some breaking news, which dabble into breaking, but 14 hours ago, the clone, Dayton Raiola, decommitted from the Cornhuskers, so one of the clones has been lost in the 2026 class. So I just wanted to let you know, Nick, that my clone's dreams of having multiple Patrick Mahomes quarterbacks, I don't have a picture of him, but while we were going to the next game, I was going to try to get some more insight of what this Dayton Raiola character looks like. And does he just like Patrick Mahomes, or does he just like, maybe he looks like Josh Allen? I'm very curious.
This isn't the first reference to Dylan Raiola being a clone of Patrick Mahomes that Coach Drew's made this year, and it probably won't be the last. So thank you, Coach Drew, for keeping the streak alive. Really appreciate that about you, buddy.
It's all about consistency.
Yeah,
we can say that about some other mainstream media.
The number 24 Illinois Fighting Illini head to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers, who are plus 7.5. Feeling a little better about themselves recently, I feel like, even though they've had a tough season. This is 7:30 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Illinois cover on the road? Question mark? I wrote it down like it was a statement, and then I decided to read it as a question. I'm not 1,000% sure about this one. I will say this, Bielema and the Illini have handled their third loss of the year, which effectively eliminated them from their dreams of college football playoff contention, but still have a physical unit, still have a well-coached unit, still have one of the savviest veteran quarterbacks in the country in Luke Altmaier. That's Drew's boy right there. I enjoy watching. They still have Hank Beatty. They still have Fegan the Hammer at running back. They still have Valentine at running back, another quality back. Better coaching situation for the Illini here, headed into the 11th game of the season. I feel like the way Wisconsin's been playing recently, they're going to slow the game down, especially in the first half. This is going to be and or look close until the fourth quarter, but I feel like the Illini cover 7.5 here. I'm going to go ahead and bang it. I got Illini minus 7.5. I feel like Illinois has the team pride and team commitment to one another to finish this season out and hopefully get what me and Coach Drew have been dreaming of since they lost their third game, which is a high-profile bowl game where Bielema can go out and talk shit to another coach like he did last year against South Carolina, which was absolutely fantastic. If you guys think bowl games don't matter, you're watching the wrong show. There's nothing more fun than holiday leftovers, maybe a little booze and some college football between some high-profile programs that maybe didn't make the CFP that year, but the Illinois-South Carolina game last year was fantastic, as we've talked about before, and so was the Michigan-Alabama game last year. When I talk to someone that tells me bowl games don't matter, after I tell them how great those two bowl games in particular were, I know I'm talking to a half-ass football fan, and if you're watching this show, I know you're not a half-ass football fan. So we are cheering for the Illini to get into a big-time bowl game this year, and I think that the focus on that, which will be good for recruiting, good for morale, extra practice for the team, extra exposure for the program, which Bielema, whether he's telling it to them that way or not, that's what coaches want at this point in the process. I think they come in and cover this 7.5, Coach Drew. In fact, if I'm Bielema and the boys, I'm a little fucking insulted that the spread's only 7.5. I would have expected it to be 9.5. 10.5, 7.5. Illinois has been so much better than this Wisconsin squad from start to finish this season. From their road win against Duke and Darian Mensah, who I think is definitely going to play in the NFL, the quarterback for Duke. The Illini went down there and took care of business in the pre-conference slate there. I don't get this 7.5. I just don't. What do you think?
Yeah, unless it's like a blizzard or something happening, maybe like cheese curds being sold. Why? I don't know why that was funny.
Checklist. What could prevent them from covering? An act of God. Okay, check. Cheese curds. Check. What else you got, Coach Drew?
Beer?
Beer.
Oh, Wisconsin knows how to tailgate. And
yes, they do.
I just want to, Wisconsin football, I just know Fickle's going to throw. I was thinking of Fickle the Pickle. I think that'd be an insult. It is an insult. I'm trying to think of something that rhymes. But yes, I do think that Brent Bielema will definitely upset him some way or another. And I want to put this energy out there. I hope that Illinois plays Arizona State in a bowl game. Oh, it's going to be like, we always talk about there's 12 teams, what would be 13, 14? What's those like? Cutoff, what would be fun? That's like the additional game. It's a one-off, winner take all, coaches going crazy. That'd be what I want to see. The only problem is if the ASU coach leaves to a bigger program, allegedly bigger program. It's very weird. We live in they act like these colleges don't make millions of dollars off students, and they act like they can't find funding anywhere, or somebody that has never made money is going to fund them.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is back to your whole thing about legacy media outlets and the way they report on things. They go, oh, Indiana's a small-time program. Nettie's going to go to Penn State. This is not 1983. Everything's different now. The ability to fundraise, the enthusiasm from boosters to keep their programs competitive at Arizona State or Indiana or anywhere else is not the same as it used to be. So this whole big-time program, small-time program, I'm looking at the big board here in my kitchen office here, and Vanderbilt is still the 14th ranked team according to the College Football Playoff Committee. Indiana is the number 2 team. We could go point out some other teams that maybe we wouldn't expect to be ranked in that context. This is the new world of college football. This is not, I was going to say it's not your dad's college football or your grandpa's college football. It's not even 2 years ago's college football. The world is so much different, and those who have failed to adapt I'm afraid right now Penn State might be one of those teams, not to pick on them. But those who have failed to adapt will struggle, and the programs will start dying faster than they ever have in the past, because the traditional ideas of the alumni bases and strong program, weak program, with NIL revenue sharing, and we say revenue sharing, the Big Ten Network provides a minimum of $55 million a year to every team in the Big Ten. Why do you think Oregon and USC, Washington, and UCLA joined the Big Ten? Because it was cute? Because Donald Duck wanted to come to Columbus, Ohio or something? Donald Duck being the Ducks mascot.
Whoa, that was allegedly. Allegedly, he looked like Donald Duck.
Allegedly. Sorry, I love the Oregon Duck mascot. Not to give him too much of our time.
Allegedly, the Pac-12 is getting sued by the Mountain West. Allegedly, all right? You got to throw allegedly. Once you say allegedly, it's all bets are off. You can say whatever you want. Nick, do you have a Hershey's Kiss on top of your head while you're talking about the New World Order? I mean, new college football.
That's a tinfoil hat, Coach Drew. I've been wearing it for years. So, yeah, the idea that, well, this, like, traditional programs, that it doesn't mean shit anymore. If you're in a Power 4 program, especially the Big Ten or the SEC, where you have donor bases and television contracts to support your athletic department, this old school, Indiana's bad at football. Yeah, they were. I watched it for decades. It's the way your administration, your AD, and your school president, and potentially the governor of your state, if you're Louisiana State University, go Tigers. It's the way they approach this whole thing that really matters most. And that's what some of the old money alumni don't understand. And I think that's why Penn State fired their coach in the middle of the year without a plan about who they were going to hire, because they thought they could go to Indiana, SMU, Tulane, North Texas, Nebraska, and just steal their coach away because they could offer him more money. This is not the old days of college football. And Drew, we should clip that. I don't know what you clip it under, but I mean, that's something people need to understand. It's something that Heather Dinich on ESPN has pointed out, probably because she's an IU alum, and so she's been tracking and trying to figure out how in the hell our Hoosiers are so damn good all of a sudden. Well, it's because of the things that I just pointed out to you guys. We're not playing the same game. In fact, before Drew, and Drew coaches the chess team at his school that he teaches at, they were playing checkers before. It was like, well, I have more checkers than you, so we just jump you and take all your stuff. It really is more chess now. And if you're used to playing I've always said this, Drew, you tell me your opinion. I don't think that teaching a child how to play checkers, I don't think it helps them learn how to play chess at all. In fact, if anything, I think it blinds them to the realities of chess where there's more variables to account for. And I think that's how some of these old school programs are right now. They're used to playing the game by a simpler set of rules that they were good at for a long time, and now those rules don't exist anymore.
Yeah, the new business model for sure with that, the checkers and chess, I do believe that it's exposing yourself to a higher quality of game. Checkers is linear, very easy. You're a little kid, I'm an older guy, I know I can jump you multiple times, I win, boom. But chess, you have two opponents who can think and move pieces methodically, and if you have a brain, you can move those pieces in a manner that would increase your odds of winning the game. And that's what it is now. It's a fair game, 64 squares, 32 pieces, 16 black, 16 white, protect the queen and king and control the center. And what they're not realizing is a lot of these newer teams are like, well, we can go over the side, we could build this over here, and they forget to attack the center. And then you have Indiana who attacks the center and then wins. So that's your chess analogy on the Midwest Blitz. If you guys kept up with that. I'm a linguistics of many tongues, many backgrounds.
Coach Drew's a real Renaissance man here on the Midwest Blitz. I'm just here to talk football. I'm not coaching the chess club.
One of the things I also wanted to bring this up too, because we were talking about clicks and baits and all that stuff. I feel like ESPN's trying to get us with the common, like back when we were wee lads, back when Nick was 6'3", not 6'4". Obama was president. Yeah, I know this is funny. Hold on. Let me get to it. Obama's president for me too. Let me get into it. Let me get into it, guys. Relax. Everyone stay calm. All right. You remember like those, like you'd be scrolling on Facebook? I know I'm mentioning Facebook, guys. Everybody stay with me. We are deep in this podcast. Do not want to lose you. You would see something that's like Obama from Mars. What? and it'd be like a little ad and you want to click on it. I feel like that's what like ESPN's trying to do to us. It's like the modern day clickbait. Like we grew up with clickbait, like, why am I going to click on that? That's probably malware. The new malware is ESPN giving us this bullshit and feeding us poison. Lane Kiffin leading Ole Miss to go to Florida? Question mark. And we're like, clickbait, clickbait, clickbait. That's what we're doing.
Can I jump in? Yeah, I got some. You're welcome, grandson. I got some notification from ESPN earlier. I'm not going to try and quote it, but it was something about Lane Kiffin potentially leaving Ole Miss. So I clicked on it and then went down this a little rabbit hole where I did a Google search of Lane Kiffin, then clicked the news tab, and then all these headlines came up from different news agencies, a lot of air quotes here on the Midwest Blitz, and about half of them, even if they weren't from ESPN, went back to somebody affiliated with ESPN, implying that Lane Kiffin was leaving Ole Miss to go to Florida and or LSU, or either, but definitely not staying at Ole Miss. What is the proof of this? There is no proof. I know that he was in Baton Rouge. Maybe he did interview for a job. That doesn't mean that he's leaving. So this whole trying to sell somebody else's coach down the river is not a game that we play here on the Midwest Blitz. I frankly think it's bullshit. You've got to have more for me. Let me tell you this. A couple of coaching cycles ago, Indiana Hoosier basketball fans had this fantasy that Billy Donovan was going to leave the NBA to come be the coach at Indiana because he had been successful with the Florida Gators, won a couple national championships there, I believe. And so somebody circulated this idea. This was early in the days of Twitter when people would believe a lot more shit than they would now. And
when it was called Twitter.
When it was called Twitter, which I probably won't let go. You have to forgive me. And so that it was this very reputable sounding story about how Billy Donovan, when the Thunder, he was coaching the Thunder at the time, on an off day was sighted at the local airport closest to Bloomington, getting off a private jet. It turns out the whole story was fake, and we've all seen things like this. But that was a prankster who was playing a joke on IU fans 10 or 15 years ago. Now it's mainstream legacy sports media outlets who are playing the same game, and it's pretty childish and pretty, I was going to say disgusting or really embarrassing. That would be an embarrassing way to collect a paycheck, but there are a lot of clowns that make a lot of money in this world. I don't know what else to say, Coach Drew. We just don't entertain that. I mean, if there's a legitimate coaching opening, we talk about it. We talked about Matt Rule's contract extension. You heard it here on the Midwest Blitz first that there was no way in hell Curt Cignetti was leaving Indiana. That was not a guess. For those of you who remember that, I was not guessing when I said that. I had more inside information than most other people who were talking about it. And then we got challenged. I tried to wager money with people in the comments section. Of course, it was hard to get money out of people in the comments section on YouTube and TikTok. But yeah, I mean, this pretending that a coach is leaving to go somewhere it's so lame. I'll just say it like that. I'm going to be a nice guy today. I'll just leave it at lame, Coach Drew.
Yeah, his inside information was he hopped in his car, drove down to Bloomington, knocked on Cignetti's office and asked, "Are you leaving?" And he goes, "Nope." And then Nick said, "Hell yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, yup." And then moved on with their day.
Will not confirm or deny that exactly, but I know more about the situation than
clickbait.
Nick
goes to Cignetti's office.
Yeah, there you go. Coach Cignetti, I did not say
before
that.
college football playoffs.
Coach Sig, I did not say that. But yeah, I mean, they start these rumors that are meritless. You want to go to Los Angeles real quick?
Yeah, let's go to the city
of Angels. Washington Huskies head to UCLA. UCLA's plus 10.5. This is 10:30 Eastern time on NBC. I think Coach Jed Fish and company should be good in this game. They should be good for a 10.5 point plus victory. I think the UCLA magic has faded a little bit, although they did have a pretty special run there for a minute after they let go of Deshaun Foster. Unfortunately for him and his family and all that, we're not making light of that, but teams have figured out what was helping UCLA be successful. This is another one where they were rolling until Indiana smashed them, and then they can't win again, which is weird. I think that sometimes when you've got something new going schematically, it only takes one coaching staff to figure it out, and then the other coaches all go, shit, what did they do there? And then they kind of copy it, and they kind of stifle whatever you're doing. I think Damon Williams and Denzel Boston are going to have a big game in passing for the Huskies here. I will never predict another good rushing game out of the Huskies again because their running game's been so unreliable, but I'm not sure that matters in this matchup particularly because I'm not sure what UCLA will do offensively. I've got Washington minus 10.5. I will say this, though. The Huskies had high hopes coming into the season. If they were to lose this game to former Pac-12 foe and current Big Ten slated rival UCLA. I love how the Big Ten has the former Pac-12 teams playing each other at the end of the year because it retains that feel of an organic rivalry. But if they were to lose this game, I think the Washington fans are going to be pissed. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if they did, that's what I feel like the situation would be for Jedd Fisch. I think he's a good coach. I support the Huskies here. Minus 10.5 at UCLA. What say you, Coach Drew?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the exact same thing. I'm going to echo you on something real quick with Washington. I mean, this team, yes, like you said, pretty troubling at the running back position and everything. Being consistent, right? That's what we can say, putting a guess on it.
I think the blocking has been more the problem than Jonah Coleman at running back. I'm a big Jonah Coleman fan. If you give him a hole, he'll bust you. And he's been a little dinged up this year, but running backs tend to get dinged up, especially when they're like the one-man show.
The other thing I also want to echo, too, is UCLA went on this run because they made a different systems. They changed their systems. They knew something wasn't working. They changed words. If it was banana, it was orange, etc., all the way down the line. What ended up happening is it's a simple fix that may get you 1 or 2 wins, and they did. But now everybody knows what banana now is orange. They know they broke the mystery. And
Orange,
that's the thing too.
Orange, you glad I didn't say banana? Is that what you're trying to say, Coach Drew?
Yeah, that's what I was getting there, possibly. Who knows? But yeah, that's the one thing I want to mention about this is that, you play spring ball, you do all this stuff to prep for the season, you're running this offense with all these packages, and you master it. There's a lot of time that goes into before that first big football game. Well, UCLA is like, we're going to burn all the books, change some things up, and this is what we're going to do. Works one time. Now, if this guy lines up in the Y, you know that they're doing this. If this guy lines up over here and this guy shifts, they're doing this. So now it's very readable, and plus it's a simplified thing. So if they line up in an I formation, they only have like 2 or 3 plays because they don't have all those systems built in.
Right.
Malava was injured the other day, so it's like also you put in another quarterback who's not him, and it's just very muddy, very muddy. Do you want to travel to South Bend now?
I almost always want to travel to South Bend, Coach Drew. We have a good time up there. We got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, number 9 ranked team in the country, taking on the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse is on a 6-game losing streak. The loss of Steve Angeli, former Notre Dame hero of last year's college football playoffs, and a player who I always enjoyed in his brief appearances for Notre Dame. A kid who definitely has a moxie, Coach Drew Angeli, I believe, is out for the year. Syracuse 6-game losing streak, passing game has dwindled. I believe they got beat by North Carolina a couple of weeks ago, which is, that you've got, what do they call it in boxing? Like you developed a glass jaw when you get beat by North Carolina, who could barely beat their own scout team earlier in the year. So Syracuse is having a tough time of it. Notre Dame, if any of you are worried, we have a close friend who really worries about Notre Dame and their college football playoff hopes and seeding. I'm going to tell you 2 things about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame loses again, I'll eat my shoe, number 1. Notre Dame wins out. They are an absolute lock for the college football playoff. They are not getting left out of this equation. I think this is a good week for Jeremiah Love to get him some stats, boost his Heisman resume. But you want to get in, get out, get healthy, mix carries between him and Price. One of the most underrated players in the country, had the best kick return of the year against USC. Me and Coach Drew watched it from the north end zone. Mix carries between those two, get Aeneas Williams some carries, and get out of there healthy. But There's no way Syracuse beats Notre Dame here. I mean, if Notre Dame was prohibited from utilizing the forward pass in this game, I still think they could beat Syracuse. Syracuse is just they're on thin ice, man. They're skating uphill. I don't see how it could happen. But yeah, Notre Dame fans.
So again, with everything that was being said, yeah, Nick, I do believe that with Notre Dame being where they're at, they're going to rest up. They're going to do everything that they need to do to be successful. The other thing, too, is this might be Jeremiah Love's last game, And I feel like CJ Carr is going to do what he needs to do to continue for the O'Brien Award. And I think Notre Dame wins big. The money line's off, so that's a thing. But yeah, Notre Dame should just take care. Last home game of the season. Maybe I go, maybe I don't go. Friends of a show wants me to go. We'll figure that out. In the meantime, though, we're going to head to the Midwest goodbye. Well, guys, I'm flying solo right now as we're having some technical difficulties. That was the last game we had to cover. Now it's just me, you, and I don't know, the mic, I guess. Trying to figure out. My phone is on silent, guys. This is a Midwest goodbye. Should we call Nick? Question mark, comment below. But yes, so Nick wants me to mention other people. I apologize. That's not a Midwest goodbye, etc., etc. Very sad though. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you like the Rate app, go ahead and check it out, or you like the idea of the Rate app, don't forget to subscribe, like, and yeah, if you like our content, check out our shorts. We go live on Tuesdays. Yeah, thanks for coming. Drew out.